To say we were surprised by the Benelli Leoncino is a massive understatement.
So when the Leoncino Trail arrived, we were really excited to see how it compared to the road version.
I also wanted to hit some gravel roads to see how it handled. So hang about and we'll go through what we liked and what we didn't like about the Benelli Leoncino Trail.
As always, if you like this video, then hit the like button and subscribe. If you're interested in interacting with other fans of the channel, then head over to Facebook and request access to the Biker Talk community group. Just like subscribing to us on YouTube, it's free.
You can also follow us on Instagram and be sure to check out our store at bikertalk.com.au. Okay, so we're not going to go over the full specs of this bike because they're mostly the same as the road version. So if you want to know those, then check out our review of that bike.
Instead, we're going to go over the differences that we found between the two.
The Benelli Leoncino Trail is a bike with a very distinctive off-road flavour and style, and it's mostly down to just two elements: the high mount twin exhaust and the larger 19-inch front wheel as opposed to the 17-inch on the road version.
The chassis on the Trail has been revised to make it better suited to tackle off-road terrain, which also means that the suspension has been upgraded.
So the 50mm upside down forks now have 140mm of travel instead of the 130, and the same upgrade has happened on the rear, so the central rear shock also has 140mm of travel.
This means that the seat height has increased from 805mm to 834mm on the Trail version. Not a massive increase, but it is noticeable.
It has the excellent Pirelli Scorpion STRs, which are a knobbly tyre, but I found they're still very well suited to the road.
Yeah, definitely. And there were some more subtle changes to the Leoncino Trail from the road version, including a taller fly screen that does completely cover the TFT this time, as well as the exhaust heat shield.
Well, first up for me is the looks. I love the look of most Scramblers, and the Leoncino Trail is no exception. I love the spoked wheels and the silhouette with that larger front tyre.
Whereas I liked it, but honestly I actually preferred the look of the road version, in particular the alloys as opposed to the spokes.
Well, I guess there's no accounting for taste.
What?
Oh, nothing. As I was saying, I love the spoked rims, and being tubeless, they'd be an easy fix if you happen to get a puncture on the road, hey Tegan?
Yes, puncture repair, easy. In fact, I might have a video coming up on that very soon. Let me know if you'd like to see that in the comments below.
Staying with the Scrambler aesthetics, it's got a really cool upswept exhaust that looks amazing.
And you'd think it would sound even better, but more on that later.
I really like the taller fly screen. I thought the one on the Leoncino 800 looked good, but this one is a bit taller and really does finish off the front of the bike. With the upgraded suspension, it does get a little bit taller, which I quite like. It gives you a great view over the traffic when you're commuting.
That's interesting. I did also like the additional height, but I've got to admit as well, I prefer to sit a little lower on the bike. So in my case, I'd say that I prefer the road version. I actually found the seat on the Trail to be quite comfortable and it didn't dig in the sides like the road version did. So it's another big thumbs up for me.
Okay, there are the usual suspects that are the same things we didn't like about the road version. Old mate Lego Leo on the front guard and the cables coming from the right-hand switch block.
But the main thing that disappointed us about the Leoncino Trail was the sound of that exhaust.
Honestly, it sounds just fine, but the road version has a great note, and with the looks of the exhaust on the Trail, I was expecting to be blown away, but I was actually very much underwhelmed.
Yeah, it just didn't have the same deep note of the road version. It was okay, but it just wasn't amazing. Something that Ross pointed out to me when we were riding on the gravel is that the oil filter is kind of just sitting out there and it could really do with some kind of bash plate, mostly just to match the Scrambler aesthetic.
I don't think the lack of a bash plate is an issue because from experience, those oil filters are practically indestructible, but I do reckon it would look cool. I suppose you could always add one, but this would be another nice point of difference if it came as standard on the Trail.
We both found that the fueling on this version, particularly in first and second gear, didn't seem very smooth and the throttle was also quite twitchy. I know I wasn't the only one who stalled it. In fact, someone stalled it multiple times.
Yes, it did take me quite a while to get used to the clutch and the fueling.
And I also had just a slight issue with the gear shift being that little bit too far away from my foot. I just had to readjust my foot every time I needed to shift gears.
But I have to say, overall, we both really like this bike. In this instance, I scored it a little higher despite being underwhelmed by the sound of the exhaust. I think it's a very capable mid-capacity scrambler and I had a heap of fun with it on the gravel. So for me, it's about an 8.5. Tegan, how did you rate it?
I'd probably give it a 7. I liked it, but out of the two, I would definitely put my money on the road version.
So an 8.5 and a 7, so we average that out and it's about 7 3/4.
Are we doing fractions now?
Would have been easier if you just gave it a 7.5. Tegan and I had a free day at work, so I called my mate Big Steph from the podcast Bikes, Burgers, Beers to see if he wanted to join us for a ride up to Wiseman's Ferry and then on to St Albans with the plan to hit some gravel roads up to Laguna.
So Ross and I met up at Dural. I jumped on the Leoncino Trail to get used to it on some paved roads before we hit the gravel, and then Ross was on my MT-07.
I'm always stunned at what a great bike your MT-07 is, and I was having a blast on it heading up through the twisties to Wiseman's Ferry until it became extremely sluggish with truly atrocious handling. Flat tyre, number 1.
So we called Big Steph, who was already at Wiseman's Ferry, and he picked up a puncture repair kit. Then it was a motorcycle maintenance lesson for me on the side of the road. We limped the bike the couple of kilometres to Wiseman's Ferry, pumped up the tyre, and then decided to go get some breakfast.
When we got back to the bikes after breakfast, the tyre on the MT-07 was looking deflated, so it was puncture repair, number 2. What happened, T? Coated.
I got 2 holes in my tyre. Well, they say practice makes perfect, so after another 15 minutes of making sure we'd found all of the punctures this time, it was onto the ferry, across the river, and onto the gravel up to St Albans. Initially, the plan was to ride to Laguna, but with the necessary roadside maintenance, we were well behind schedule.
So we rode for about 45 minutes or so on the way up to Laguna, stopping regularly to swap bikes and get some footage, but we decided to turn back and head back through St Albans and onto the ferry. There are some great roads up that way, and I have it on good authority from Ryan from the Vespa Club Leichhardt that the Pie and Peas at the Settlers Arms at St Albans is the goods. So I'll be back up that way very soon for a proper pie run.
Overall, the Leoncino Trail is another great bike from Benelli. It's good on the road, and for my first time on gravel, it gave me a lot of confidence. It was much better on the gravel than my MT-07, although having said that, Big Steph seemed to have quite a blast on my bike.
So I'd agree with that, I really loved it. It's not too tall, it looks great, and the suspension is good. I think I only bottomed it out once on a particularly rough section of road, and the tyre profile is excellent for these type of roads. Is it enough bike to step up from something like a Himalayan? And is it good enough to be in competition with a bike like, say, the BMW GS?
Well, I guess that is something that could be a topic for another video, but what do you think? Would you like to see a comparison between the Leoncino Trail and the Himalayan, I can't do it, and the BMW GS?
I can see another episode of Talking Shit in the Fire Pit coming up. Let us know in the comments if you'd like to see that.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video. If there is a bike that you'd like to see us review, then please just let us know in the comments. That's all for now.
Till next time, stay safe and enjoy your next pie run.